counterfeiting is one, shall I say, serious issue that has been increasing year after year at a very fast pace. No one really knows the scope of the problem in terms of the value of goods that are being counterfeited, because that is something that no one can possibly calculate, as you can well imagine. But various estimates are currently putting this between $4 to $5 trillion. That, as you can imagine, is a huge, kind of number, and it's larger than the GDP of most countries, save the top four or five. So that's something that is a serious threat, and it's something that most brands, most governments, most regulators and enforcement agencies are working overtime to, fight. Yes, counterfeiting affects manufacturers big time, because what is legitimately their product, what is legitimately their brand, what is legitimately their USP, that is being hijacked by a counterfeiter who is wearing the mantle of the original brand and pushing his inferior products, pushing his inferior quality, pushing in his inferior brand promise, if there ever was one, in the garb of the original brand's name and style. So that really affects the manufacturers big time. They lose market share, and that impacts seriously their top line and bottom line. So this is something that most brands are now waking up to, and I'm sure maybe as the interview goes on, we get into more details of exactly what those measures are and how they're going about it. And the industries that are typically most susceptible to counterfeiting, uh, typically FMCG, pharmaceutical these days is getting bigger and bigger. So a lot of pharma brands are getting duplicated left, right, and center. And there is a big buzz in the pharma sector these days. Everybody is talking to us, or in the industry generally, about how can they protect their medicines against counterfeit. Because what happens in pharmaceutical is that the fake medicines often do not have any active pharma ingredients. They, if at all they do, it's in very small measure. So the consumer is taking the medicine, but not getting the desired result out of it, the desired treatment out of it, which affects again the brand value big time. Cases have been reported when the consumer has failed to recover and he's probably died, or the fake medicines have caused him serious injuries to his health. So yeah, all in all, pharmaceutical is definitely one sector which is greatly hit. Then we have consumer durables, we have auto components, agriculture. There's big time counterfeiting in seeds and insecticides and pesticides, and apparel is another industry which is also being very severely hit. So these are some industries, I mean, which are being, where the hit is more visible. By and large, I think just about every industry segment is suffering from the ills of counterfeit. But the names that I just took, these industries probably see it, more than any other segment, so to say. Like I said, counterfeiting is eating into the top line and the bottom line of the brands. So typically what happens is that a brand needs to fight its competitors. Every brand has competitors in the market, right? So for every Lux, there's probably a Synthol, there's probably a Puck Avenue or other similar brands that, it needs to fight. So the brand now also has to worry about fighting its own fake or duplicate in the market, besides the legitimate competition, right? And like I said, the fake brands, they destroy the trust and the brand promise that the brand carries to the consumer. So the consumer feels cheated because he has paid for something which is not quite what he was expecting, which is not a real product that he intended to buy. So the consumer, very often what he does is he moves on to another product, because if he suspects fake product in a particular brand, then he would rather not take the chance and move away. So that is definitely one nightmare, I think, that most brands kind of suffer. So they're losing their business they're losing their market share. So therefore, the bottom line is also hit. There was this survey by In, Inco Pro, I think that's the name. Yeah, Inco Pro. And they found that 52% of the consumers lost trust in a brand after purchasing a fake product online. We're talking online specific here. And 64% lost trust in the online marketplace. So people, I think online unfortunately has evolved as a kind of a platform where the counterfeit products are being pushed a little more conveniently, I would say, as compared to the mainstream distribution channel. So that is definitely one problem area. So that is the brands need to be careful, and some very very big and well-known brands have actually stopped selling its products directly on platforms such as Amazon, because they couldn't be very sure that what they are selling or what somebody else is selling is actually that original product or not. So that's a big problem. When you are facing counterfeiting, you are spending more. You're spending on the surveillance in the market. You're spending when you find a counterfeit, then you're also spending on the legal aspects. You are, so all these are additional costs. Plus, brands then also tend to look at authentication features. They want to spend more on their packaging, on their labeling, because they want to give some identification marks and signs on their product. So all this is definitely adding to the cost, which ultimately makes the brand less profitable. So yes, counterfeiting is, and look at it another way. Uh, Supposing a brand sells 100 units, right? And the counterfeit is selling, let's say, 15 units. So the brand had a market of 115 units. And if the brand was actually selling all of 115 units, then their cost would be lower per unit, right? So that is an indirect incremental cost also, because the brand is not selling what the market is actually buying. So that's another way in which the brand costs increase. So in terms of technology, there are several technological advancements that are available these days. See, we've had physical technology features such as a hologram, such as security printing, such as specialty inks, and then you also have digital, technologies available such as track and trace. Track and trace is a big thing. So what's happening these days? The new trend is of digital. So what authentication suppliers are proposing, a lot of brands are adopting, is to mix the physical technology features with the digital technology features. So the effect is what we call a phygital technology or a phygital solution. So you have the best of both worlds. You have a visual, feature such as a hologram, maybe, and then you have a phone, a smartphone, which can be used to scan a code. And these days you have non-clonable codes also. You have uh, uh, secure graphics contained within a QR code or a part, not a barcode, within a QR code, and the app is uh, powerful enough to tell between the original printed code as against a fake code. So these are some very, very interesting and smart technologies that are now making their entrance in the market in a very strong way. And then the blockchain is again there. But what happens with blockchain is that blockchain is in the back end. The front end is the code itself, which is scanned by using your phone, for instance. But the back end of it is stored on blockchain, because blockchain cannot be hacked, as we know, right? Because it has the ledger distributed all over the world, and every single transaction is broken down into several entries into ledgers that could be, or laptops that could be sitting thousands of miles away. So it's very difficult to hack a blockchain transaction. So the front ending technology is the track and trace, but the back end is blockchain. So the blockchain is not in itself authenticating the veracity of the product. The blockchain is taking care of the back end. The front end is always the track and trace app that you see. Similarly, smart labels and RFID tags, they just make the identification of the product more convenient, because you can by using a reader or a mobile phone, you can identify a unique identifier which the RFID or the smart label contains, and then the app or the software then picks up that ID and then transmit it to a database from where more information can be accessed to establish the authenticity of the product, including its traceability right up to the origin. So smart labels and RFID are expensive, so they have limited applications right now. But then we expect that the cost will come down in the times to come, in the next few years, so to say, and then I think their usage will grow tremendously. Any anti-counterfeit strategy has to be a well thought out decision. The manufacturers have to assess the problem areas. They have to, if they can, get a sense of exactly identify where exactly is the breach is in the supply chain. Is there a certain geographical area which is more susceptible? That is where it is coming from. So these days, when you have codes on your products, and then if the same code is copied by a counterfeiter, which does happen a lot, and once that fake code is scanned, then the manufacturer knows where it's getting scanned from, so they can focus their energies in that area or state or city or whatever, and look for the possible breaches there. So but all in all, it has to be a well thought out strategy. You have to see where the pain points are. You have to see what is getting counterfeited. Is it a label? Is it a packaging? Is the product getting tampered? Is somebody just opening the bottle or the cap and then removing the genuine stuff and putting the fake stuff? So that problem first has to be assessed, and then corrective measures need to be taken. The best way is to put together a mix of features that are overt, covert, and forensic. The overt features are the ones that are visible to the consumer by naked eye. So consumer doesn't need any instruments. He can look at something and then tilt it, or by touching it, get a sense that yes, this is original. Covert is something that is hidden, which typically the brand's team, they'll carry a small, a pocket, a small instrument or something that you can carry in your pocket and use that to verify. So that's a covert feature. And the forensic features are so nano that they can only be identified in a laboratory. So the advantage there is that if a brand is ever fighting a claim of a liability because of a particular product that failed and caused loss of life or other losses to the consumer, then brand can always resort to those forensic features and establish if the product that caused the problem was actually theirs or not. So a multiple technology solution is always very, shall I say, advisable. You should also select an ASPA member to be your solution provider, because they operate with the latest in terms of technology. They operate on a platform where they can collaborate with other technologies and come up with truly an effective solution. That will help the brand take a lot of positive steps to safeguard the revenue and brand equity. Last but not the least, the brand should refer to a standard that is called ISO 22383, which is basically guidelines for selection and performance evaluation of authentication solution for material goods. So it's a short document. You don't get certified under ISO 22383, but you can refer it to as a resource, because that advises on any brand on how to formulate a strategy to fight counterfeit, how to measure its effectiveness, and then kind of move forward and bring about changes and improvements. ultimately, I would also say the consumer needs to be very aware how to differentiate, or at least the consumer needs to be alert. If you pick up a packet where there's an obvious spelling mistake or the package doesn't look right, so as a consumer, one should immediately think and then see, boss, what am I buying? Is it a genuine product? Could this possibly be a fake? So that consumer awareness is important, and I think a lot of industry is also talking about consumer awareness. Pharmaceutical industry particularly, and there's this very big pharma company, one of the biggest in the country. Their CEO is all over LinkedIn and social media talking about the fake medicines and how it needs to be curtailed. I think the government of India would also probably be, I mean, we are trying to approach the government to create that awareness campaign, tell the people that, look, there are a lot of fake products. And my favorite example here is, we had this very popular campaign called Jago, Grahak Jago a few years ago, right? Which really made the consumers aware of their rights in terms of, what they were entitled to as consumers, right? So, a similar campaign regarding the presence of fake products in the market would, I think, be very, very useful to enlighten the consumers. And once the consumers are on their toes, then they become like your police, right? The consumers are the brand's police, the government's police. They are looking out on the shelf. Huh, slightest, kind of doubt, then there's invariably a telephone number mentioned on the package where they can report. Maybe not the fake package, but there will be another genuine package which will obviously carry the real number and email. Then they can report it to the brand. So I think it's very important to create the consumer awareness.